In the cold emptiness between stars, nothing should move without reason. And yet, something is. A new object has entered our solar system, not from within, but from far beyond. Its trajectory, its behavior, unexplainable. And what scientists just found about it is rewriting the very laws of physics. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Years ago, a visitor called Oumuamua shocked astronomers and left behind more questions than answers. But this new one, 3I, Atlas, is doing something even Oumuamua never could. Because for the first time, space itself seems to be reacting to it. In October 2017, astronomers using the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii detected something strange moving across the night sky. It was traveling faster than any asteroid they had ever seen, and its path showed it wasn't bound to our sun. It came from the direction of the constellation Lyra, and by the time we noticed it, it was already leaving. They named it Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word meaning, a messenger from afar, arriving first. At first, it looked like an ordinary rock drifting through space. But then, the data began to break all the rules. Oumuamua was spinning in a bizarre way, tumbling end over end, as if it had been thrown. It reflected sunlight unevenly, suggesting it was shaped like a long cigar, or maybe a flat pancake. No one could agree. And most confusing of all, it began to speed up slightly as it left the solar system. Nothing visible was pushing it. No tail. No gas. No dust. No explanation. Scientists tried to fit it into every known category, asteroid, comet, debris, but it fit none. For the first time in human history, we had confirmed an interstellar object. And it behaved like nothing we had ever studied before. It made us wonder if something, or someone, out there, had sent it intentionally. For years after Oumuamua left, scientists watched the skies, waiting for another messenger from the stars. Many wondered if we would ever see one again, or if Oumuamua was a once-in-a-lifetime event, a single visitor, passing through our cosmic neighborhood and disappearing forever. Then, in the year 2019, an astronomer named Gennady Borisov spotted a new object through his homemade telescope in Crimea. It was small, dim, and moving fast, but its path told a shocking story. This was not from our solar system. It was coming from deep interstellar space. Soon, telescopes around the world locked onto it. The object was officially named 2I, Borisov, the second interstellar visitor ever found. Borisov was special because, unlike Oumuamua, it looked like a true comet. It had a visible tail, a cloud of gas and dust surrounding a solid core. Scientists breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, something that looked familiar. But the story didn't end there. Because just a few years later, another strange traveler was detected, one that seemed to combine the impossible qualities of both Oumuamua and Borisov. This new object was labeled 3I, Atlas, discovered by the Atlas survey system in Hawaii. At first glance, it seemed like a normal comet, just another icy body passing close to the sun. But as the data came in, astronomers noticed details that didn't make sense. 3I, Atlas was brighter than expected. Its orbit wasn't quite normal. It appeared to have come from outside the solar system, traveling at a speed too high to be captured by the sun's gravity. The object was moving so fast, and from such a strange direction, that its origin couldn't be traced to any known stellar system. As days passed, scientists began comparing its motion with that of Oumuamua and Borisov. But 3I, Atlas refused to behave like either. It began to fragment in a way that defied normal comet physics, pieces separating and rejoining, as if held together by something invisible. Its tail shifted direction multiple times, as though responding to forces not yet understood. Even the gases it released were unusual, showing chemical signatures never before recorded in ordinary comets. What made it even stranger was its light. Its brightness fluctuated in perfect rhythmic pulses, almost like a beacon. No natural object should emit light in such precise intervals, yet the data was clear. Every few hours, the intensity of its glow changed, in a repeating pattern that continued for weeks. Some researchers argued it was a coincidence, the result of rotation and sunlight angles. Others quietly admitted they had never seen anything like it. The patterns were too stable, too deliberate, too engineered. By the time 3I, Atlas reached its closest point to the sun, its behavior had already broken several laws of astrophysics. It accelerated without visible cause. It broke apart without fully disintegrating. And it glowed with a rhythm that defied randomness. To many, this was just another strange space rock. But to a few scientists, it was something much more. Another messenger, perhaps, from the same origin as Oumuamua. Or maybe, from somewhere even farther, older, and stranger. Something that was not simply passing through, but watching, observing, and leaving behind a trail of impossible data for us to find. When the first detailed readings of 3I, Atlas came in, the scientific community was divided. Some thought it was just a dying comet, falling apart from the heat of the sun. But the numbers told another story. A story that didn't fit any known physical model. The fragments of 3I, Atlas weren't slowing down as they drifted apart. In fact, some pieces seemed to gain speed, moving in directions that defied the gravitational pull of the sun. Normally, when a comet breaks apart, the smaller fragments scatter slowly and fade away. But these fragments were moving with precision, as if guided by an invisible force. Spectroscopic data revealed elements that didn't match ordinary comet chemistry. There were traces of metallic compounds that shouldn't exist on an object formed in deep interstellar space. Even the density readings were inconsistent, sometimes showing a solid structure, sometimes hollow. It was almost as if 3I, Atlas wasn't a natural body at all, but a shell, a vessel, or something built with purpose. Astrophysicists began running simulations, trying to explain the strange acceleration patterns. Some proposed it was driven by jets of sublimating ice, just like Oumuamua was once thought to be. But the energy required for those motions was far too high, far beyond what sunlight could ever provide. Others suspected that it might be interacting with magnetic fields in ways we haven't yet discovered. But again, the observed data broke those limits too. As weeks turned to months, the mystery deepened. The rhythmic pulses of brightness continued, perfect in timing, constant in frequency. No natural spin rate could produce such even patterns for so long. Some scientists dismissed it as an illusion or a processing error. But multiple observatories confirmed the same phenomenon. For the first time since Oumuamua, astronomers began whispering the same forbidden idea. What if this wasn't a coincidence at all? What if we were witnessing technology far beyond our understanding? Even the most conservative researchers admitted that 3I, Atlas was behaving like nothing ever recorded before. Its light curve, its velocity, its fragmentation, all pointed towards something artificial, or at least, intelligently influenced. But no one dared to say it publicly. No one wanted to be the next scientist mocked for believing in alien engineering. Yet deep down, many knew the truth couldn't be ignored. Something about 3I, Atlas felt intentional. A message, perhaps. A test. Or maybe, a reminder that we are not the only ones watching the stars. And as telescopes followed its fading glow into the dark, the equations continued to break. For every answer found, two new questions appeared. And each one pointed toward the same impossible conclusion, that the universe might be hiding not just rocks and comets between the stars, but visitors. Travelers who understand physics in ways we can only dream of. As 3I, Atlas moved farther from the sun, scientists tried to calculate the forces acting on it. They mapped every variable: gravity, solar radiation pressure, magnetic flux, and thermal reaction. But the math refused to work. The data simply didn't fit the laws that govern celestial motion. When an object travels through space, its acceleration can be predicted precisely by Newtonian and relativistic equations. Yet 3I, Atlas was drifting off those predictions, by measurable, consistent margins. It wasn't a random deviation, it was structured, controlled, self-correcting. In physics, when a force acts on a body, there must be an equal and opposite reaction. But here, there was no visible source, no jet of gas, no debris, no external push. The object moved as if propelled from within, by something invisible, or by a technology that manipulates space itself. Some researchers proposed the idea of non-Newtonian propulsion, a system that could bend the local curvature of space-time to create movement without fuel. It sounded impossible, but it was the only model that could explain what was being observed. Others brought up quantum vacuum fluctuations, the concept that empty space is not empty at all, that it contains energy fields which, if harnessed correctly, could produce thrust from nothing. If 3I, Atlas was using something like that, it would mean it was operating on a level of physics beyond human engineering. As the object fragmented, the smaller pieces behaved as though they were still connected. Their paths remained synchronized, as if an unseen network held them in formation. That kind of coordination across hundreds of kilometers is something nature does not do. It suggested some type of cohesive field, perhaps electromagnetic, perhaps something entirely unknown. Astrophysicists began quietly exchanging private emails, trying to reconcile what they were seeing. They spoke of gravitational anomalies near the fragments, minor distortions in light paths that hinted at mass shifting. If accurate, it could mean that 3I, Atlas was manipulating its own inertia, bending the fabric of physics itself. For decades, humanity has dreamed of propulsion that requires no reaction mass, a drive that could take us to the stars without fuel or exhaust. And yet, here was something from the stars already doing it. Each reading, each simulation, only deepened the mystery. Was this object using solar radiation as energy? Or was it feeding on the vacuum energy of space itself? Was it naturally formed by the universe, or built by an intelligence so advanced that its design looked like nature? In the end, scientists agreed on only one fact. Whatever 3I, Atlas was, it should not have been possible. Its existence, its motion, and its defiance of every physical law we know proved one thing, that our understanding of the universe is still primitive, and the cosmos still holds secrets far beyond our reach. If 3I, Atlas truly broke the laws of physics, then we are not looking at just another interstellar rock. We are looking at a sign. A fragment of something greater, something that may have crossed the void for reasons we cannot yet imagine. Every scientific discovery begins with a question. But this one begins with a warning, because if objects like this can enter our solar system unnoticed, what else might already be drifting through the dark? We once believed space was empty, silent, and predictable. But these visitors show that the universe is alive, with movement, mystery, and maybe, intention. Some scientists suggest that 3I, Atlas could be part of a natural chain of debris, remnants of ancient systems torn apart by dying stars. But others whisper about purpose. About design. The rhythmic light pulses. The impossible acceleration. The coordinated fragments. It all feels like a pattern, a signal written in the language of physics instead of sound. If that is true, then 3I, Atlas might not be a message to us, but a message to someone else. Something passing through our region of space, leaving behind breadcrumbs we were never meant to see. Or perhaps it is both, a messenger and a probe, silently gathering information about the civilizations it encounters. And yet, there is another possibility, one that is even harder to face. What if 3I, Atlas is a natural phenomenon that reveals how little we actually understand reality itself? What if the universe runs on rules deeper than our physics textbooks, and we are only seeing the surface layer? If that's the case, then we are witnessing the cracks in our own knowledge. The edges of science, breaking open. Every civilization believes it understands the universe, until something arrives that forces it to start over. For ancient astronomers, it was the movement of the planets. For modern humans, it was relativity and quantum theory. And now, perhaps, it is interstellar visitors that travel without fuel, and shine with coded light. If the behavior of 3I, Atlas is truly intentional, it means that we are not alone. Not in the poetic sense, but in the literal, measurable sense. It means that intelligence capable of mastering physics beyond our comprehension exists somewhere out there. Maybe they are explorers, like us. Maybe they are engineers, studying the cosmic sea. Or maybe, they are simply travelers, who once looked up at their own sky, and wondered if they were alone. For now, the truth remains hidden in the cold, dark silence of space. 3I, Atlas has faded from view, its fragments scattered among the stars. But the questions it left behind continue to echo through every observatory, and every equation. Perhaps someday, we will build instruments powerful enough to find another like it. Perhaps one day, we will understand how something can move without force, and shine without fuel. And when that day comes, we might realize something profound, that we were never the first to discover the universe. We were only the first to notice that it was looking back. As the light of 3I, Atlas vanished into the black sea of space, astronomers watched in silence. They had measured everything, its orbit, its speed, its strange pulses. But in the end, it left behind more mystery than truth. Like Oumuamua before it, the visitor came and went too fast to be fully understood. And now, all that remains is data, light curves, and questions that no one can yet answer. In a universe of endless motion, we sometimes forget how small we are. Our science explains so much, yet it takes only one impossible object to remind us how fragile our understanding really is. We build equations and laws to make sense of the cosmos. But the cosmos does not always obey. Maybe 3I, Atlas was just a fragment of ice and rock, shaped by forces we cannot yet measure. Or maybe, it was something else. Something built not by chaos, but by choice. Something ancient, that had crossed this galaxy long before our world even formed. And for reasons unknown, it passed close enough for us to notice, just once. Every mystery in space begins the same way, with a spark of data, and a feeling that something doesn't fit. That feeling is what drives us to look deeper, to question reality, and to push the boundaries of what we believe possible. 3I, Atlas may have broken our models, but perhaps that's exactly what it came to do. Because discovery always begins with discomfort. Progress begins with doubt. And the universe reveals itself only to those willing to accept the impossible. So we keep watching. We keep listening. And we keep wondering. Somewhere out there, another object might already be heading toward us, silent, invisible, waiting to rewrite everything once again. Until then, all we can do is look up, and remember that the laws of physics are not the limit of the universe. They are only the limit of what we understand. And beyond that limit, something is moving through the dark. Something that should not exist. And yet, does.